Hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier biz development partner within tech. Today, we're joined by Sammy James, the founder and CEO of Leverly. Sammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Oliver.
It's great to have you on, Sammy. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about what you do and what you do with Leverly?
Yeah, I'm all about inbound leads because I come from sales. I mean, part of my career anyway, found myself in a position because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to have limits to my income. That drives me crazy. So sales was always the only way I knew that I could get unlimited income, right? Based on my performance. So I kind of grew up. Sales has always been a common thread in almost every position I've ever been in, whether it was meant to be or not. And so when I was running, kind of skip right ahead to how Leverly. Do you want to hear why I started Leverly or why I'm doing what I'm doing? Because inbound, right now, all businesses rely on inbound leads. Or outbound. And so I'm focused on the inbound part. Outbound is, cold calling and, doing marketing, outbound marketing and trying to get a response. But even doing that, running ads, you're still getting a response. So it comes back to you as inbound, whether that be a call or a form. Those are, there are businesses. Oh, sure, people, do get personally developed leads or trade shows. But I'm talking about the general, channels that most businesses rely on. It's SMBs in particular is where I specialize, because I feel I have this mission to enable SMBs, and they're pretty big companies. That's not small, but I really want them to have access to everything an enterprise would. Not make technology affordable to them and accessible to them, so they can compete with anybody. So, so inbound. That means that if you were to deconstruct from perfection, what would perfection look like if you were completely optimized to capture 100% of your inbound leads? So there's a lot of layers to that. But let's just start with where I'm focused is on the fundamental part, which is in sales. You can kind of define sales as a conversation. So if you're not having a conversation, you're not really right? You're not engaged as a salesperson. So this is pertains to obviously businesses or services that require a conversation to forward the sale along, move it along. So if you're getting inbound, whether it's a phone call, well, you need to answer that call 100% of the time, 24/7, ideally. That's okay. That's one thing. You should never miss a call ever. That's number one. Number two, if it's a form, you have to follow all of the science behind the optimum response to a form and where the leverage is, and that is speed is the number one driver. That means you need to call every inbound lead during compliant hours in the United States. It's generally between 8 and 8 p.m., 8 a.m., 8 p.m., or 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And if you have to call them within 60 seconds every time, every fresh new lead you get. And if you don't connect, which say you don't, maybe 40 to 50% of the time, depending upon your business, then you need to be persistent. And you need to call those leads at optimum intervals and not give up. And you need to use multi-channel messaging, texting, email, voicemail, and so on, to orchestrate, that blend of communication to help increase the likelihood they're going to answer your call. So all sorts of things there. So that's perfection. And so perfection, and so I always that's for me an orientation. And people will say, well, perfection's not possible, but at least it's an orientation. And now, and sorry, okay, I've got a 3-year-old. He's gonna be 3. Hey, you gotta go because Papa's busy. Okay, okay, I'll get your phone. All right, here. All right. Okay, honey. All right. So anyway, I'm a member of the Old Dads Club. So as, so as I was saying, I'm just thinking, what can I do? Because to me, that is the highest leverage you have, and the most direct expense you have, which is generating those opportunities, generating those calls, generating those forms. And sometimes that's done organically, sometimes that's done through paid, paid ads, paid pay per lead. I mean, there's a lot of money being invested. Okay, the average lead cost, that's to be conservative, I'll say $50, but I mean, we know that they cost $1,000, right? But let's just say 50 to be conservative. And of course, the opportunity cost by missing out on an opportunity to speak to a lead before the competition does, or speak to them at all, is huge. And it's just like, well, the more at bats or the more shots on goal. I mean, you can be terrible. You could be, your skills, sales skills can remain wherever they are today, and they may not be good. But if you have more at bats or more conversations, you're still going to sell more. All things being equal. I'm not in the sales coaching business or whatever. I mean, I'm happy to lend a hand wherever I can, but that's another area that you can leverage, right? And there's a business for that, and there's businesses all along this chain of this, where this process of called sales happens. But I'm in the beginning. I'm in, how do we squeeze more juice out of what's coming your way, and give you more opportunities. So that's my focus, has been since about 2007, when I first came up with the idea of converting a form into a phone call, which had never been done up until that time, apparently. I'm kind of an inventor with no education. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I don't have any of the knowledge I wish I had. If I was an engineer with my creativity, I'd be amazing. But I'm not. So I'm just, some guy with a lot of ideas, I'm also scrappy. So I'll go find somebody who can get it done for me, right? Which is what I did. And so that was the first experiment into this, and so that's just part of what our business is about, is leveraging technology, and now AI, of course, which is just better technology, to even increase the effectiveness even more.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And Sammy, there was quite a few nuggets in there that I want to dive into.
Well, I'm sorry, that was a big monologue, man. I
No,
apologize.
you're good. You're good.
A
You're good.
monologue light is coming on, right?
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But no, we can go back a few steps. You mentioned there just you're scrappy. You have the creative side. You wish you had the engineering side, but you'll find somebody that can go get it done. How important has that mindset been while you've been building your companies throughout time?
Well, I mean, I think throughout my career, I've always I felt like I was an underdog, because I dropped out of college, and I felt really guilty about that, because everybody in my family is like, my brother was like, PhD and college professor, and my sister's like, very accomplished, 3 or 4 degrees, and so I somehow felt somewhat inferior, because I didn't, graduate from school, and much less business school, and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, as a result, I kind of made it I try to make up for it, right? And also being ambitious, which I've always been. I knew that really the only opportunity I had, as I said before, was in sales. And so what I found out is that I was my determination and my persistence is really what enabled me to be successful in sales. And then the scrappiness came, where I'd always find a way around. I just don't accept things as they are. It's like somebody drives up to somewhere and the gate's closed. They go, "Oh, it must be closed." Like, my wife, "Okay, it's closed. Let's go." No, I go, "No. Let's go check the gate, see if it's open." It's like, "No, wait, you can't do that." Well, why not? Nobody's going to get hurt, right? So, hey, the gate's open. Let's go. Let's park here or whatever. So I'm always, it's like I remember I used to, when I would hire salespeople, I would to ask them. I said, let's go to lunch. You drive. And what I was looking for is to see whether they just sat behind a car or whether they found a way around the traffic to get to where we're going as efficiently as possible. But if they just accepted that, oh, this guy's in my way, or, whatever is going on in the traffic, and they just, were real passive about it, I'm like, there's no way these guys are going to survive. So I didn't even have to have the interview. We talk about something else at lunch, you know. But so, anyway, and that has paid off for me because I would, working, like I remember I did sales for a radio station because I have a background in media and I've been on air, I've been programming, and of course sales. I've done everything in radio and consulted radio and all that sort of stuff. And what I found is that the station had no ratings. This is in San Francisco. It was like the bottom station or something. It was still a big station, but it was really tough to sell. And so I what I did was I went out and I hired someone, a friend of mine who was really good. We wrote 2 commercials and produced them, highly produced. They were really good. I mean, national level commercials. And I would just go out and cold and walk into a car dealer or furniture store, whatever, it's a lot of retail stuff, and just say, hey, I've got a couple ideas I'd like you to hear. Because I've been thinking about your store and I think you guys have a great product, and I'd just like to run these commercials by you. I'm with this station, and they're like, well, okay, sure, I'll listen. And then they'd hear them and they'd go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Of course, it was good stuff, right? And so I said, we could, the only thing wrong with these commercials is that nobody can hear them except for you and me right now. But the entire market can hear them if we put them on the radio. So what do you think about that idea? So, yes. So that's a scrappy way to sell something that has little value compared to the competition, where they can walk in, hey, we're the #1 station, and so I kind of created my own production company. And then I ended up, all the salespeople came to me. And so I had a side business within, producing commercials with my buddy for all the salespeople to go out and do these spec spots to help them sell, while I was using it as a tool for me to sell. So that's just an example of, just kind of goofy stuff I would do, to try to survive.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And it sounds like providing value was at the forefront of your sales strategy. What other lessons did you pick up along the way of, maybe it was just characteristics or traits that kind of also helped you close deals?
Well, I'll tell you, man, I discovered something about myself by being in a room with other salespeople at the table. And I would listen to this client ask a question or say something, and then listen to the other salespeople respond to it. And I'm thinking, listening as the client, I'm thinking, this is not what he was asking. And so I would just say, can I just stop everybody for just a second? Can I go back to that question and can I check something out with you? You said this, and what I heard was this, and that. Is that right? Because I'm not sure. And they're like, yes, that's what I meant. And so I found myself time and time again in these situations, in these meetings with other salespeople, where what I realized is that I can hear between the lines and, between the words. And so, there's, I guess you call it active listening or something. I don't know. But really what it is being perceptive, being observant, and listening for what's really, it's kind of a combination of things. Now when you're in a real room, and maybe on Zoom this is not as easy. It kind of is, not really. But in a face-to-face, it's so easy to pick up on their energy and their vibe and just how they are, all that stuff. And so I'm a keen observer of that, and that's a skill I've learned because I had to survive that. My stepfather was in the military, so I was in 13 different schools in 12 years. So I was always the new kid. So when you're the new kid, the first thing you do is like, okay, you want to belong to the group, right? That's just, your nature is to belong to the group, the tribe. So how do you get in the group? Because right now they're just laughing at you because you're dressed funny, all that. You talk funny because you're from a different part of the world. Because I lived all over the place, and so it's like, you just start to figure out, well, what's cool, what's considered acceptable here, and you just observe like fast as you can. It's a survival thing, and I think that built that muscle for me, where I tend to sit back a little bit and observe and check things out, and then I go in, and I think that has paid off. Just looking back, I mean, it could be wrong, I could be wrong, but that's just an observation that I've made, but. But I would just say to anybody who's selling, man, is really clarify. And I got to the point where I just started to not care whether I closed the deal or not. It's like, sure, I wanted to. Sure, I wanted the commission. Yeah, of course. But it was more fun for me to let go of that and go into the meeting with just like, if they were one of my best friends, and just try to help them buy what I'm selling, help them figure out how to buy it and whether they should buy it. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like, let's figure out whether this even makes sense for you, because it may not. And so when you just start that way, and it just relaxes everybody, especially me. And so and then that it works because I don't feel the pressure. I don't feel nervous. It's more fun, and there's more integrity. So you might call that ethical persuasion, right? And so that helped me a lot too. It just made sales a lot more fun, and not so like, I got to a point where I was actually good enough that I could close someone who shouldn't buy from me. And when I realized that, I was like, wait a minute, just because I can doesn't mean I should. This is not the right product for them. And here's what I learned, and how I learned that is that if they buy, they're going to unbuy really fast, right? If you kind of use your skills and your abilities to close the deal and all that stuff, all that technique stuff, you can close that deal, but it's going to unclose really fast and unravel on you, and you're not going to have retention. So what's the point, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. No, and I like that. Is just kind of the approach of, you position it whereas you and the prospect are sitting on the same side of the table, trying to figure out what works best for them. It's a team game.
Yeah. And honestly, why wouldn't you? I mean, because I have my retention is like 7 years on average. I've got clients that have been with me for the whole duration, like 15 years, with this recent product. And the reason is I just try to keep it real, and I don't try to fool them or try to be clever or outsmart them, or I just, it is what it is. I mean, because here's my adage, or whatever you want to call it, is the truth is the best disguise. So my staff, I used to have a bigger staff than I do now. But what I would tell them is, if you don't know what to say, here's the secret. Are you ready? They say, yeah, what is it? I go, tell the truth. Whatever that is. And it might not sound good. It might be unattractive. You might feel embarrassed. I don't know, but just say it, whatever it is. And it works every time. I mean, and so as a philosophy, my philosophy is the truth equals what works. And what I found is what works is the truth, as part of that. It's pragmatic, right? And so if I just try to do what works. And it turns out being honest works really well.
Yeah. Transparency, authenticity, it goes a long way. There's a lot of snake oil.
Yeah, and it turns out, it's a great way to live, because you can sleep well, and you have integrity and you're ethical. You get all sorts of benefits out of that one.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Trying to be clever, just be truthful, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Sammy, we can start to wrap it up now, but you've got an extensive background in sales, and speaking with a lot of founders, a lot of executives across the tech space, sometimes that's their bottleneck when it comes to growing a business. Right now, as you're growing Leverly, what's kind of on the horizon? What's the vision? What's the mission? What's your goals?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now that we've evolved, we've expanded from where we were just forms to phone, and now we're able to add an AI rep to back up your reps. So if you can't answer our calls, they can. So now you've got 100%, response. Beautiful. And then also we can extend that to, answering inbound calls through conditional call forwarding. So now you're never missing a lead, whether it comes in by form or by phone. It's just super exciting. So it's the starting a new company, and I'm just onboarding as we speak. I haven't slept in 2 weeks, onboarding new clients with AI phone reps, which is an add-on to our platform. But for sales, what I'm this is what I've learned. I'm telling you, man, I have wasted more time and money hiring people that are really cool people that say, "Man, I can do this cold email for you. I can do this whatever for you. I can do this for you. I can do it," and try my own stuff and whatever. It's really, really, really difficult. And very few things have ever worked for me. I mean, other than doing, integrated partnerships and native integrations, things like that. But that works pretty well. But what I found is it's really comes down to first set an impossible goal. Like what do you want to do in 30 years? Well, then make it 3 years. Do that in three. What do you want to do in 3 years? Try to do it in 3 months. Just be ridiculous about your goal. And then, work backwards from there and look at, think out of the box because you have to. And so when you do that, creative ideas come. And right now, it really is for us, it's who, not how. And so I'm surrounding myself with the right who's. So the right people with the right network, with the right influence, with the right access to get me to my impossible goal, which is to acquire 1,000 customers within the next 12 to 18 months. Yeah, new customers. So it's fun. I'm having a great time, but a little tired, but otherwise good.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's all.
very cool, very cool. And I've never read it personally, but the book of Grant Cardone, the 10x rule. I'm not sure if you've read it, but
Well, yeah, I
it
mean,
sounds a
yeah,
very
10x is
similar
easier
kind of
than
concept.
2x. Benjamin Hardy, Dan Sullivan wrote that book. Yeah, The Science of Impossible Thinking, I think, is a new book by, Hardy's great. If you ever get reading anything by Benjamin Hardy, I love his stuff. And I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. It's an experiment. Everything. I'm just going through it like everybody else, and failing and succeeding as I go. And hopefully, I'm going to get lucky and I'll succeed more than fail in the near future.
Yeah, that's
All right.
that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game.
Sure.
But Sammy, that's all I've got for you today. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your insights, dropping a little sales masterclass for the audience. Really appreciate you coming on, and for everybody
Sure.
listening, I'll be sure to tag it down below. But Sammy, where can the people find you?
Yeah, all the usual places. And I guess LinkedIn is kind of like the main uh, the main area right now. Leverly, Sammy James, Sammy T James. Yeah, that's it. That's my handle wherever I go. And so yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
All
good.
right.
And I'll be sure to link everything down in the description. So for the people listening, if you want to check out Sammy, you want to connect with him, you want to check out Leverly, it'll all be down there. But Sammy, once again, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Oliver. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.